Black excellence is finding, appreciating, and respecting the excellence within yourself and sharing it with other Black people so that it's a light that can be passed on from person to person, generation to generation, until we are an entire race of excellence, Black excellence.
Welcome to the Dripping in Black podcast, where we celebrate Black excellence throughout the Black diaspora. Here's your host, David V. Lewis.
What's up, good people all across the world? This is the Dripping in Black podcast. I am your host, David V. Lewis. And per usual, we have another fantastic guest. Today's guest is the Honorable Marylin E. Atkins. Marylin, say hello to the world.
Hello, world. Glad to be here.
Yeah, I am truly honored and excited about this episode. We have someone who has a dynamic story, dynamic history, and I just can't wait to be a part of her chronicling her history and sharing it with the world. But we always begin in our traditional fashion with asking the simple but somewhat complex question, somewhat loaded question of who is our guest. So who is Marylin Atkins?
Marylin Atkins, that's me, is a Black woman who believes in sharing all of the experiences, both good and bad, with other people to show them that whatever I overcame, they can overcome as well. I'm interested in Black people being the very best that they can be.
Yes. And we are interested in showcasing Black people at their very best. And so, again, we are just thrilled to have you on. There's so many places to begin with your story, but I would like to know, tell the audience where you're originally from.
Well, I was born in Detroit, and I was born of an young Italian girl who had a Black boyfriend who nobody knew about, and she got pregnant, and I'm the result of that. The Italian side of the family said she could not bring me home, so I was placed in foster care here in Detroit, and I was adopted by a African-American family, a couple in Saginaw, Michigan. So I was taken to Saginaw, where I was raised.
Okay, so in Saginaw, you're raised by this adopted family. You spend your formative years there. Do you navigate through the public school system up there as well?
The Catholic school system. They were Catholics. I had a Catholic education.
Okay, wow. Okay.
An undergraduate at Saginaw Valley State University, law school in Detroit. We moved to Detroit, the Detroit area in '74, so I could go to law school, and been here except for 7 years outside of Lansing for a job with the Attorney General and Governor Blanchard. I'm back in the city of my birth, and here I'm going to stay.
Yeah. And so there's an interesting story, part of your story, in which you meet your husband, right? How old were you when you met your husband?
Oh, I was 15 when I met my husband. I was the organist in the Catholic Church where he was the assistant pastor.
Okay. All right. So you're 15 and he is
25 years older than me.
Okay. And so you all meet. Do y'all hit it off immediately, or does it take a little time?
No, he was my boss. I mean, he was, I had a conversation with him when I was 19. From 15 to 19, he told me what masses to play, what hymns to play, and he gave me my paycheck. He was Father Atkins to me for 4 years. So
Okay.
at 19 is when we had the conversation.
Okay. 19, you have a conversation, and from that conversation, what do we get?
Well, it's called in the Catholic Church, it's called an open confession, where I sit across from the priest and I tell my sins and get absolution. And when I finished, he said, "May I talk to you?" And I said, "Sure." And he divulged to me that he was seriously considering leaving the priesthood. I asked why, and he said, "I want to get married and have a family of my own. I have been a priest 15 years at my parents' insistence, and if I don't leave now, I'll never get the chance." And I set on a mission, David, to make him change his mind and not leave.
Okay.
Well, that didn't work, obviously. since my last name is Atkins, that didn't work.
Yeah, so he was insisting upon pursuing this relationship with you, and he couldn't have it both ways in that day and age.
He still can't. Catholic priests cannot get married unless they get permission from the Pope to be what's called laicized, and that permission comes through their bishop. And the Bishop of Saginaw, this is all in Saginaw, the Bishop of Saginaw would not intercede for any priest to leave the priesthood.
Wow. Now, is this your first boyfriend?
No, I had an African-American boyfriend before my husband. And let me just say that Father Atkins, Thomas Lee Atkins, was white. He was 45, and I was 20 when we got married. So he's 25 years older than me, and he's white, and he's an ex-priest. So that was kind of a lot on our plates.
Yeah. And then at 20, you're in college at this time as well?
I was in college, yes. But it's all in my book, so I'm not really shy about saying, priests are celibate, and so he never had any experience. And I agreed after a while. Yes, I want to marry. He was a very peaceful man, and my growing up with my adopted mother was absolutely horrendous. And this man was peaceful, and I said, I can do this. I can do this. And we're talking about 1965, and we married in 1966. But so we had the experience at his insistence, because he had never experienced a woman. And so as a result, I was with child, can I say? So, and my oldest daughter, Elizabeth Ann, said at 9 years old, she figured that out. So, but it was, and then a year later, I had my daughter, Catherine. And let me just say, he was a wonderful husband and father, and a very spiritual man. And he put the priesthood behind him and became a husband and a father for 24 years. And then he died of kidney failure in 1990.
Yeah. And so I'm trying to get the timeline here. So now at 20, you're married. At some point, you're in school. At this time, are you in school for law?
I was not in school. We married in 66. I was not in school because I had a child in 67 and a child in 68. So I had to work, and he worked for the state of Michigan, and I worked for a bank. And, it was going fine. We're living in Saginaw. And in 1971, I have two little children, and I look up, it's a Sunday morning, he's reading the paper, and our two daughters are playing on the floor. And all of a sudden I get this epiphany that when it's time for my now 50-year-old husband to retire, it's going to be time for our daughters to go to college. And somebody's got to pay that tab. And I looked at him and I said, I got to get back to school. And he said, yeah, well, that's the plan, but why are you rushing? I said, because I got to get in something that's going to allow us to educate our daughters. So I went back to school in 71, finished my undergrad in 73, kept working for the state. And I said, this money's not going to be college money. So we figured law school. Okay. And I started law school in 76, U of D Law School, University of Detroit. Finished in passed the bar in 1980. Wow. And from there, David, I mean, the Lord was really helping us out because my career went on a trajectory that I was so grateful for. I couldn't believe it. I got an appointment from Frank Kelly, the Attorney General, Governor James Blanchard, and Alex Allen, who was Chief Judge of 36th District Court. And then John Engler, the Governor John Engler, appoints me to 36th District Court, a lifelong Democrat. And then the Supreme Court in 2000 appoints me Chief Judge 6 times, 12 years, and I'm the longest serving Chief Judge of that court's history. So that's from foster care to running one of the largest courts in the country. Yeah. So it's like, if I can do that, whatever challenges you have, you can overcome them. And along with that, David, is having the right partner. Yeah. And I always tell young ladies and young men, you have to have a partner who believes in your dream and you believe in their dream. You don't walk in front of them. You don't walk behind them. You walk together. Wow. And it used to be that, okay, I'll work and put you through college, and then you work and put me through college. That's the way it used to be. Yeah. I don't think it's that way so much anymore. But you have to have a partner who is going to be supportive of what you need to do. Yeah. Teamwork makes the dream work.
This is such a rich conversation. There's so many places that I wanted to stop and kind of dig in a little bit. So let's go back to, you decide to go into law. How old are you then?
30.
When you make the decision. Okay, so you're 30 years old.
Oh, to go into law, I'm 29. Okay. And then I finished law school at the age of 33.
Okay. So my first question with that is, why law? Why did you choose law at that time? Was that always something in the back of your mind or in your heart? Or was it something that they kind of developed over time?
It did not develop over time. I was working for the state, as I said, and I was introduced to the section of Michigan Employment Security Commission that lawyers worked in, and they were the pay was very, very good. And at that time, you had to take civil service exams and then hope that there was an opening in somewhere other than Ishpeming so that you could take the job. When I heard these lawyers talking about all you have to do is pass the bar and be a lawyer, and you could be an MESC referee. So that was initially my goal. And I thought it would be a career where if I kept my nose clean, watched my P's and Q's, I would be able to transition into higher positions and make more money. Remember, the goal is to be able to pay for my kids' college education by 1985. And I
did. And you did that. And as you said, God kind of opens up all these doors. You put your head down, stay focused on what you want to do, and God opens all these doors, and these opportunities come your way. I'm amazed because take me into that time period, right? How many Black women are walking the halls you're walking in the position you're serving in?
There were 3 African-American women in my class. There were some Hispanics and some what they call foreign born. And the majority of the class were white women and white men. Mm-hmm. It was just a handful of us. This is 1976. There was just a handful of us. But we were there and we made it through, and I passed that bar on the first try. Everything I did, I had to do for my family. It was 4 of us, not just me.
Right.
I want to go back for just a second. I maybe should wait for you to ask this question, but maybe you won't. In 1967, the Supreme Court struck down all of the laws that said interracial marriage was a ban on interracial marriage was unconstitutional. I think it's significant because my daughter was born that year, that same summer that decision came out.
Yeah. Is that the Loving?
Loving versus Virginia, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And so that's significant to your story in a few ways, right? You're married to, you're in an interracial relationship, but you were born as a child from an interracial relationship as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so you've experienced that on both sides and bookends in your life. Talk to us about that. How has times changed since you were a child until now, in terms of things that you've seen in that arena with race and the acceptance of interracial couples?
Well, it was easy for me growing up because I was raised by a Black man and a Black woman.
That's right.
So I'm Black. I don't identify. I mean, if somebody asks about what I am, or gee, you look something like something else. What are you? Or like my story. Okay. Yeah. But I'm a Black woman. And I tell my kids sometimes, gee, it's a good thing your grandparents adopted me. I don't think I would have done well in an all-white Italian setting. Wow. I'm too stubborn. I got too much. So, but what I have seen we had to have a conversation with our children because they're biracial. And me being half Italian and an all-white father, you can imagine, you know what my children look like. So I had to have a conversation with them and about, listen, the whole world is not going to be happy that you're here. But you're going to have to find your own way. All your father and I can do is give you instructions and give you all the love that we can possibly give you, but you're going to have to make your own way. And because they look like they look, they have been, I'll say, misdiagnosed as not Black, but they are. They are, and they live that way. What we're seeing, now and over the years since I got married, since the 60s, is you've got 300 million Americans identifying as multiracial.
Yeah.
You have all of these interracial couples with all of these interracial children, from, you know, the people in the neighborhood to basketball stars, movie stars, football players, all kinds of folks.
Yeah.
I don't know what kind of conversation they are having with their children. I don't know, and I don't think that money makes a difference in terms of the perception of who you are. You know, and there's one family out there, the father, who's black, says, you know, my kids are black. And the mother says, no, they're not. Well, they're both. So what do you got to talk to, you have to talk to your children about who they are, where they came from, and they absolutely have to respect both sides of the fence. You don't want to say, sometimes they won't say, well, I'm black because I leave out my white parent, or I'm white, I leave out my black parent. So I think the word now is biracial or multiracial, I think is the word. And even on the census documents, you can check a box that's got multi meaning to it. You don't have to do black, white, or Indian or Chinese. It has more than that. I've seen it. It's exploding. The browning of America is here.
So much there again. So part of that is the person themselves identifying themselves how they want to identify themselves. The other part of that is the way the world is going to choose to identify you. Correct. And we know that within this country, if you're black, you're black. You know, they treat you as such. If they perceive you to be black, then that's how they treat you. They treat you a certain way. Yeah. And so I'm enamored by your story in that you were raised by black parents. And so perhaps some of the challenges that you would have faced being raised by your biological parents, and even some of the mental makeup that would come from that experience doesn't happen to you. You know, you're centered in your blackness as a result of being adopted by black parents.
Yes. I like the way you put that. You put it better than I could. Thank you very much. But yes, I'm centered in my blackness. That's right.
Yeah. So 29-year-old, 30-year-old Marylin is going off into this world of law. Not many black women in that field. What are you feeling? What are you experiencing at that time, if you could recall?
I just wanted to make it through law school, pass the bar, and get a good job so that I could bear the financial burden of, I won't say call it a burden, the financial responsibility of putting our daughters through school. And that's exactly the way it happened. He was 65. You know, and I, through an appointment as the first African-American chairperson of the Michigan Workers' Compensation Appeal Board, thanks to former Governor James Blanchard, that money was very good. And I was able to put two daughters through University of Michigan. And remember, they're a year apart.
Go blue.
So one went through, and then for 3 more years, two were there, and then my youngest daughter was there by herself. So I had 5 years of that financial responsibility, and my husband took care of the car, the car insurance and all of that. and I took care of the room and board, tuition, and everything. And it was we did it. We did it. We did it together. He was Mr. Mom while I was taking classes at night at U of D Law School. He took care of the kids.
Yeah. So I'm a young person, Black person in this country, thinking about going into law, and you are able to matriculate law from this appointment. So you're in this appointment. What, with regards to law, are you responsible for? Kind of break it down for the common folk.
Absolutely. Right? It was workers' compensation law. If you were hurt, injured on the job, and you applied for workers' compensation, and your employer said, I'm not going to give it to you because I think you already had this problem, and you're saying it's exacerbated by the work I'm having you do, and I don't believe that, so I'm not going to give you any workers' comp, that person has a right to appeal. And by the same token, if workers' compensation was given to a worker, and the employer felt it was not deserved, the employer could appeal. Those appeals came to the appeal board, and we reviewed all the evidence and wrote the decisions. And when I was the chairperson, I oversaw 45 attorneys writing these decisions. Wow. And then after that, I went to 36th District Court as a magistrate, and then as a judge, and then as chief judge. And of course, you know, that's criminal law and civil law. Yeah. And I absolutely loved it. It's called the People's Court. And there were 7,000 people a day coming into that courthouse.
Yeah. Yeah. So this position that you have with workers comp, the work that you're doing there, are you gaining a skill set that assists you when you matriculate into magistrate and then off into the judge position?
I was. I'm sorry. Yes, I was. And the way I was is because I was doing appeals. And what you have to do when you're doing an appeal is listen to this side, listen to this side, and put all of the evidence together and make a decision. And that's exactly what a magistrate and a judge does. Yeah. So yes, it did prepared me well for my judicial career.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to unpeel. So if somebody is, again, aspiring to become a judge, they're African-American, they want to be a judge. What are some advice in terms of steps that you would give them?
Well, I would advise not doing it the way I did it, with a husband, 2 kids, 2 cats, and a house. But don't do it that way. And on top of that, it's very expensive to go to law school now. You know, remember, I graduated in 1979. Yeah. And I mean, it was a lot of money at that time, but it's a lot of money now. You got to get through high school, and you have to do 4 years of college. And law schools are not real particular on what you majored in. Mine was psychology, and that was acceptable for getting into law school. A lot of people do political science, but you've got to buckle down. You got to study, and you got to get out of there with good grades. Because after that, if you say, gee, okay, I graduated from college, now I want to go to law school, you've got the law school entrance exam that you have to pass. And that's what's sent. You send around to law schools, and just based on that, they say yay or nay. And if you don't have a score within their range, I was rejected by Detroit College of Law because my law school entrance exam score was too low. It wasn't too low for University of Detroit, however. And I am a proud alumnus of U of D. It's U of D Mercy now, and they are very proud of me. But you have to study, and when you get in law school, they're right that first year is the most challenging. You got to put everything aside and concentrate on that, and then you have to take the bar when you're all finished with the classroom work, and you have to pass it. And if you pass it, then you've got to pray that you're going to get a job someplace, prosecutor's office, defense firm, whatever, whatever you want to, civil rights attorney. And like I said, you do things in the community as well to show your connection. They just don't want to see grades. They want to see what kind of a person is this? Is this a person who's not just interested in me, but is interested in serving their community?
Yeah. Awesome. So I got, I think, two more questions before we get out of here. The next question, I think, is similar, but I'm gonna put a twist to it. Knowing what you know now, if you can go back and talk to the 29-year-old Marylin, what are some things you would tell her?
You did everything right. And I'm proud of you. You did everything right. Yeah. And I did. I'm proud of my career. I'm proud of my children. My husband and I, of course, because of the 25-year age difference and the race difference, we went through things, but we made decisions together. There was a bond of absolute commitment and love. Wow. And sometimes when you have adversity at your door, it'll either strengthen the two of you or make you pull apart. And ours, everything that we went through brought us closer together. And we never left God out of our equation. I mean, he was a priest, so and I grew up a Catholic girl. So prayer and thanksgiving was always present. What would I tell her? Do the exact same thing over again as you did the first time. I wouldn't change a thing, except I wish he had lived to see me become a judge. But he did live to see both of his daughters that he wanted so bad graduate from the University of Michigan. And he died 3 months after our youngest daughter graduated from University of Michigan.
It's such a dynamic story. It's a love story. It's a story about race. It's a story about independence. It's a story about education, perseverance. You tapped into, you were saying, walking together, not behind or in front. And what I thought about in that moment, I said it was juicy. It was so many things I could go where I could go, but the trust that's necessary to allow that dynamic to happen when you're with somebody, to not try to forge ahead, or for that person to not try to forge ahead, but for you to stay in sync side by side. There's a trust factor that you all had that I don't know that people are willing to allow themselves to be vulnerable enough to get. Right. To get trust, you really have to be vulnerable enough to allow for that to develop. What do you think?
I agree. So there can't be any marriage at first sight. You have to get to know this person, because the two of you are putting your lives in each other's hands. And you're either going to walk this road together or not. And we have this saying now about power couples. Well, that's fine, but you have to respect each other.
Yeah.
One can be a racehorse and one can be a plow horse. And you find your niche, but you do it together, and you do it for the sake of your family. And you never let anything come between, interfere with the love and the trust that you have for each other. I'm putting my life in your hands. You can put yours in mine, and we will travel this road together. That's what marriage is supposed to be about, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. I mean, and I'm going to ask my final question. It's just so much more I feel like I can ask you, especially with regards to 36th district. So I do want to give you mentioned this earlier, but I think it's worth repeating. You were the longest serving chief judge in the history of Michigan's 36th district court. And so I know you've seen all kind of things, and it's all kind of ways we could go with that experience. Let's talk a little bit about that before I ask the last question. Tell us a little bit more about your experience as a judge in that seat. Just give the audience something about that experience that you had in that long-standing position.
There are 31 judges, including myself. The Honorable Willie Lipscomb, he's deceased now, was my chief judge pro tem. And I always viewed my job as chief judge to make sure that all those judges had what they needed to do their job. And I was not just the administrator, but I was a working judge. Anytime anybody had to take some time off for vacation or sickness, I would step in and fill in for them. I was at their service, not vice versa. What do you need to be the very best judge you can be? There were 500 employees. What do you need for me to do for you to come here every single day and give your very best? And listen, the definition of a courthouse, it's not a happy place. You're either getting sued, you're getting put out, you got to sue somebody, you're going to jail. So the employees had to be of a mindset that all of the people that come in there every day, 8 hours a day, were in trouble. Or, they had problems.
Yeah.
And what do you need to stay calm, to give good customer service, and to take care of the needs of these people? That's the way I saw it. And anytime you're a leader, you have to do what you are telling other people to do. So I tried, first of all, by example, and that is to get down on get my hands in the pot and work a docket and work cases. I was there to serve the court, and every decision you make as chief judge, the first question you have to answer, and the only question you have to ask, is this the best decision for 36th District Court? And the reason I did 12 years is because the Michigan Supreme Court, who is responsible for appointing chief judges, 6 times, 12 years, answered for me, that's what Judge Marylin Atkins does. And the answer is yes.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's just an awesome story. Plug your memoir for us real quick.
I was encouraged to write my memoir by my daughters. And when people would hear my story, they say, gee, Marylin, you should write a book. And I put it off and put it off. So I finally, my daughter said yes. And they're authors and publishers of their own company. Yeah. So I wrote it. And I designed the cover. Listen, you got to tell the good with the bad. And that's what I did. Otherwise, people will think you're disingenuous because nobody's life is perfect. So this is me at 6 months old when I was adopted. This is my husband when he was a priest. And this is us with our 2 daughters as a family. And you'd be surprised when people see this cover, especially when they see that, and then they see, wait, hold it, there's a priest. Wait a minute, what? Now he's got 2 little kids on his lap. Let me get this book and see what this is. And he was like, what is going on? And that's the reaction I want, so that they buy the book. We have the book in the hands of a screenwriter, because now we are going to shop it as a movie. The Triumph of Rosemary, and it's Rosemary because that was my name at birth.
Oh, okay.
My name was Rosemary Lupo when I was born, and my parents changed it to Marylin.
Wow.
When they adopted me. So Triumph is because I think I've triumphed over lots of things. And it's Rosemary's, because she started out behind the 8 ball, as they say, and met all the challenges, and I'm fine.
Yeah, awesome. Audience, go pick that book up, and be on the lookout for the film that's in the works of this wonderful story. We just touched a little bit about it. Do you have your daughter's companies? Where can people find out about the work that your daughter does as well?
2 Sisters Writing and Publishing is the name of their company.
Yeah.
And my book, by the way, can be purchased on Amazon. But it's 2 Sisters Writing and Publishing. If you Google that, you will see all the things that my daughters are doing. Now, Elizabeth is the one that is doing all the writing, book coaching, and publishing. Catherine has gone into financial advising, but she's still part of the company, but Elizabeth is doing the work. I'm very proud of them.
Yeah, and I'm put on camera. We love to have both of them come on Dripping the Black as well. So put a good word in for us when you have an opportunity.
Thank you.
All right, but I must get to the final question. It's the most intriguing question that we ask each and every one of our guests. You ready?
I'm ready.
Have you ever been on the cover of a magazine?
No, I have not.
Ah, okay. You've been on covers of books, you've been in the newspaper, but no magazine cover.
Correct.
All right. Well, one of the things that we do here on the Dripping in Black podcast is we place each and every one of our guests on our magazine cover. And so my executive producer is going to pull up your magazine cover.
Oh my gosh. Thank you.
Yes. All right. And so if you look over my shoulder, we have more guests than I have over my shoulder. But these are guests from our first and second seasons whose magazines covers we have laminated and sent out to them. We will do the same for you as a parting gift. We will laminate that and send it to you at a later date as a big thank you for coming out to the Dripping in Black podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here. I'm glad we met several weeks ago. It's an honor, really. Thank you.
Yeah. Yep. The pleasure is all ours. So we want to thank the Honorable Judge Marylin E. Atkins for joining us. And we want to remind our audience that the DIBK Drip Shop is open. You can go there and find all kind of Dripping in Black merch, from the original Dripping in Black tee to this latest thing that we have, this To Celebrate Us t-shirt that you see me donning today, and lots of other things. Go there and check that out when you have an opportunity, and support Dripping in Black as we celebrate Black excellence. And as always, a huge thanks to all of our listeners, viewers, supporters, and subscribers. And until next time, be kind, be loving, and be excellent on purpose. It is a choice.
Up next on the Dripping in Black podcast, we speak to the multi-talented Yamashita Paynes.
Grind. Get ready. It's a new day. You have to grind. Every day should be a grind. Get up, get ready, get dressed. I believe you should look fabulous every day. Every day, because I don't give up on life clothes. Everything I put on has a jit to it. You know, gotta have a jank that ain't to it. So you get up, you get dressed, you feel good. If you look good, you feel great. And that's a proven fact. When you get your hair cut, when you get your nails done, it makes you feel good. So every day should be that. And that's what I did. I feel good every day.
You have just experienced a Dripping in Black production.